I have lived in the same house near 40 years now. It is an old house, older than me. Timber my grandfather's people raised before there was a paved road in the county. And in all those 40 years, through all those cold Ohio autumns when the fields empty out and every mouse for a mile goes looking for a warm place to winter, I have never once had mice move into my home. Not once. And I have never owned a single one of those plug-in boxes they sell. Never scattered poison in my walls where my grandchildren play. Never paid a man in a truck to come spray my baseboards. Now I want you to sit with that a moment because I know how strange it sounds. Most folks think mice in the house come fall are just a fact of life, like the cold itself. Something you fight every year and never quite win. You set the traps, you find the droppings in the drawer, you hear them in the wall at night, and you sigh and say, well, it is that time of year again. But it is not a fact of life. It is a fact of the house. And that is the whole thing I want you to understand today because it changes everything. A mouse does not come into your home because it is cold out. A mouse comes into your home because your home let it in, and fed it, and gave it a quiet place to nest. Take those three things away, and the coldest autumn in the world will not put a single mouse in your wall. The mice will be out there, same as always. They just will not be in here. The old folk knew this. They did not have poisons and they did not have exterminators, and yet the plain, tight, well-kept farmhouse stayed clear of mice year after year, while the cluttered place down the road was overrun. It was never luck. It was a handful of simple things done right, things that cost a few dollars and an afternoon, that made the house itself a place a mouse could not get into and did not want to be. I am going to give you those things today, 6 of them. How to find the secret doors a mouse uses to get into your house and shut them for good. How to take away the food and the water it does not even know it is living on. How to deal with the ones already inside, the honest and humane way. And I am going to tell you the plain truth about the sprays and the sound machines and the peppermint oil, and which of them actually work and which are money thrown to the wind. Because there is a great deal of foolishness sold to good people who just want their homes back. None of it is hard. None of it is dear, and by the end, you will look at your own house the way a mouse looks at it, and you will know exactly what to do. Before we start, a word. If you would rather understand a thing than just buy a product for it, if you would rather fix the cause than fight the symptom every year, then this channel is your kind of place, and I would be glad to have you in it. Tap subscribe, and I will see you here every week with another of the old plain ways. One honest word before I start, as is always my way. What I am telling you today is not the way of the poison and the exterminator, and I want you to know why, because it matters. The fellow who comes to spray and set bait, he has no reason to make your house so a mouse cannot enter. His living is in you having mice next year and the year after. He treats the mice. He does not treat the house. The old way is the opposite. The old way is to fix the house one time, so well and so plain that the mice simply cannot get in. And then you are done. Not managed, done. It is more work at the front, an afternoon or two. But it is work you do once and are finished with, instead of a fight you take up fresh every fall for the rest of your life. And I will tell you honestly through the whole of it what works and what does not, even when what does not is the very thing everybody swears by, especially then. Now let us begin at the beginning, which is the only place that matters, and it is the door. Here is the first thing, and it is the root of the whole matter, and if you do only this one, you will keep out 9 mice of every 10. It is this: you find the little doors the mouse comes in by, and you shut them. Now, to do that, You have to understand one thing about a mouse that will genuinely astonish you, because it is the key to all of it. A mouse can get through a hole very much smaller than you would ever believe. I will tell you the plain measure of it. A mouse can pass through a gap no wider than 1/4 of an inch. That is about the width of an ordinary pencil. If a pencil can go through a gap, a mouse can go through it. Now stop and think what that means, because most folks never do. It means the mouse is not coming in through some obvious open door. It is coming in through a gap you have walked past 10,000 times and never once saw as a door. The little space where a water pipe goes through the wall under your kitchen sink. The gap under the garage door where the rubber seal has worn and no longer meets the concrete at the corners. The place where the dryer vent comes out through the wall. The worn spot under your front door. The crack where the foundation meets the wood of the house, all the way around, down low where you never look. To a mouse, every one of those is a wide-open doorway. Its skull is the only hard part of it, and if the skull fits through, the whole body folds down and follows, ribs and all. They are built like a thing made to pour through a crack. So the work, and it is the most important work in this whole video, is to go around your house slow, both outside and in, and look at it not through your own eyes, but through the eyes of a mouse. Get down low, take a flashlight, and hunt for every gap, every crack, every hole where a pencil could go. Start outside, down at the bottom, where the wall of the house meets the ground. Follow it all the way around. Look where the water spigot comes out, where the gas line or the electric comes in, where the air conditioner lines go through. Look at your foundation for cracks. Look at where your siding ends down near the dirt, for it is often loose there and a mouse walks right up under it. Then look up, because a mouse climbs as well as a squirrel. Look at your dryer vent, your gable vents up high, the places where pipes go through, the corners of the roof line. Then come inside and look in the hidden places. Pull out the drawer under the oven and look at the wall behind it. Look under the kitchen sink and the bathroom sink, where the pipes go into the wall, for that gap is one of the most common doors of all. Look in the back of the cabinets, behind the washing machine, down in the basement and the crawl space where the pipes and wires run. Take a bit of paper and a pencil and mark down every gap you find. Do not fix them yet. Just find them this first pass. Most folks are honestly shocked at how many little doors their house has standing open, and every one you find and mark is a door you are about to shut in the mouse's face for good. That is the whole of the first method, and it is the foundation of all the rest. You cannot keep a mouse out of a house full of open doors, no matter what else you do. So you find the doors. Next, we shut them. And there is a right way and a wrong way, and the wrong way is what most folks do. So now you have got your list of little doors. Here is how you shut them so they stay shut. Because here is where nearly everybody goes wrong and wastes their afternoon, and has the mouse back inside of a month. The wrong way, the way you have surely heard, is to stuff the hole with steel wool and call it done. Now, steel wool is not nothing. A mouse does not like to chew it, for it is sharp in the teeth. But hear me plain, steel wool alone is a temporary patch, not a permanent fix, and I will tell you exactly why. Steel wool rusts. Give it a season in a damp spot, by the foundation, under the sink, and it corrodes away to orange crumbs. And worse, a determined mouse will simply take hold of the edge and pull it out, or pack it aside, for it is soft and it gives. Stuff a hole with steel wool, and you have bought yourself a few weeks, not a few years. So here is the right way, and it is barely more work. For the small gaps, the ones around a pipe, you want a material a mouse cannot chew and cannot pull loose. The best plain thing you can buy is a coarse copper mesh, sold just for this. Copper does not rust the way steel wool does, and it is tough in the teeth. You pack that copper mesh tight into the gap, and then, and this is the part that makes it permanent, you seal over the top of it with caulk or with a bit of spray foam, so it is locked in place and the mouse cannot get a grip on it. Copper in the gap, sealed over the top. That is a door shut for years, not weeks. For the bigger holes, the ones too big to just pack, a gap in a vent, a broken corner of siding, a hole where something used to be, you want what they call hardware cloth. That is a stiff metal wire screen, and you want the kind with a 1/4-inch grid, for the 1/2-inch grid is too wide and a mouse slips right through it. You cut a piece of that 1/4-inch hardware cloth to cover the hole, and you fasten it down tight at the edges so it cannot be pushed aside. A mouse cannot chew through that wire and cannot bend it. That hole is closed for good. And I will give you the plain, honest word on 2 things folks reach for that they should not lean on. The spray foam by itself, the expanding foam in a can, is a fine filler and it seals out the draft. But a determined mouse will chew right through foam alone like it was bread. Use the foam to seal over the copper mesh, yes, but never as the only thing in a hole a mouse is working at. Same with ordinary caulk. Caulk is grand for a hairline crack too small for anything else, but for any real gap where a mouse is pushing, caulk alone will be chewed away. The rule is simple. Any hole a mouse truly wants needs a hard metal heart to it, the copper or the wire, with the foam or caulk only to lock that metal in place. Now here is a thing you must get in the right order, and it is important, so mind me. Do not seal up the last of your holes if you already have mice living inside. Think it through. If the mice are already in and you close their last door, you have not shut them out, you have shut them in. And then they die in your walls, or they chew a brand new hole to get out and you are worse off than before. So the order is this. If you have mice already, you deal with the ones inside first, which is our next method, and you save the final sealing for last, once they are gone. If your house is clear and you are doing this ahead of the cold to keep them out, then seal away and seal it all. Right doors, right materials, right order. Do that and you have done the 90% that matters. Let me stop just a moment here in the middle. If this is the kind of plain, honest how-to you have been looking for and not finding, the sort that tells you the truth instead of selling you a gadget, then the one thing that helps me more than anything is simply your subscribing. It is free, it takes a moment, and it tells the machine to show this to more folks who need it. That is all. Now let us get to the food, for it is the second half of the secret. Now, shutting the doors keeps out the mice that would come in. But there is a second half to why a mouse chooses your house over the field. And it is the one most folks never think about at all. It is food. And I do not mean a loaf left out on the counter. I mean the food your house is feeding a mouse right now without your ever knowing it. Understand how little a mouse needs. A mouse does not need a meal. A mouse needs crumbs. A tablespoon of something a day, and it thrives and it breeds. So when I say take away the food, I do not mean tidy up. I mean think like a starving little thing that can smell a seed through a cabinet door, and go take away the things it is living on that you have never once counted as food. The bag of flour and the box of oats and the rice in your pantry, sitting in paper and cardboard. To you, that is groceries. To a mouse, that is a paper door with dinner behind it, and it will chew straight through the bag in a night. So the old way, and it is a good one, is to keep your dry goods, your flour, your meal, your grains, your sugar, in tight tins or thick glass jars with a good lid. Not the paper sack it came in. A mouse cannot chew through glass or steel, and just as important, it cannot smell through them near so well. Put your pantry in jars and you have taken the whole grocery store away from the mouse at one stroke. Then the food you are not thinking of at all. The bag of dog food or cat food in the corner of the garage, open or loose in its paper sack. That is very often the single thing drawing mice to a house, a great open sack of rich feed, and folks never suspect it. Put the pet food in a tight bin with a lid, metal or hard plastic, the same as your own. And do not leave the pet's bowl down full overnight, for that is a mouse's midnight supper laid out fresh. Feed the animal, let it eat, and take up what is left before dark. The bird feeder outside the window. A grand thing, and I would not tell you to give it up, but know that a bird feeder scatters a steady rain of seed on the ground below it, and that seed is a beacon that draws mice right up to the wall of your house. If you feed the birds, keep the feeder well out away from the house, not up against it, and clean up the fallen seed underneath. And the plain crumbs of daily life. The toaster tray full of crumbs. The crumbs behind the stove and under the refrigerator, where they roll and gather for years. A mouse lives very well on what falls behind your appliances. So you pull them out once, and you clean back there, and you keep the counters wiped and the floor swept of an evening, not for tidiness' sake, but because you are closing the mouse's dining room. Take away the doors, and take away the table, and you have taken away the two reasons a mouse had for choosing your house. There is not much left to argue him in. Now I have to speak to those of you who are not starting fresh, who are watching this with a mouse in the wall right now. Because everything I have said keeps the next ones out, but you have got a problem tonight, and you want it handled. So let us handle it, plain and honest and humane, the way it ought to be done. First, the honest truth about poison, and I feel strongly on this, so bear with me. I do not use it, and I will tell you why. Poison does not make a mouse go outside to die. That is a story. Poison makes a mouse thirsty and slow, and it very often crawls off to die inside your wall, where you cannot reach it, and then you live with the smell of it for 2 or 3 weeks, and there is nothing to be done. Worse than that, poison is a danger in a house with children and with pets. The dog that finds the dying mouse, the grandchild that finds the bait, and worse yet, the poisoned mouse is eaten by the owl or the barn cat or the neighbor's dog, and the poison goes right on up the chain and kills the very hunters that would have kept your mice down for free. I will not have the stuff in my house, and when you know all that, I expect you will not either. The old way, and still the best way, is the plain snap trap. It is a few cents, it works at once, and it is honest. A quick end, no suffering drawn out, no poison loose in your home. Now, most folks who say traps do not work for them are simply setting them wrong. So let me tell you how to set them so they work, for there is a knack the old folk knew. First, where you put it. A mouse does not walk out in the open across the middle of the floor. It is a frightened thing, and it runs along the wall, always, with its whiskers touching the baseboard. So you set your trap right up against the wall, not out in the room, with the trigger end toward the wall, so the mouse crossing along its little highway runs right onto it. Set it where you have seen the droppings, back in the corners, behind the appliances, in the dark runs, not out where you happen to walk. Second, the bait. And here is the old secret. Use very little, and do not use cheese. Cheese is from the storybooks. What a mouse truly cannot resist is something rich and sticky. A tiny dab of peanut butter, no more than a pea, worked right into the trigger, so the mouse has to tug at it and set the trap off. A great glob it will nibble from the side and steal clean away. A tiny dab worked in, it has to work at, and that is what springs the trap. Third, and this is the one nobody tells you, use plenty of traps, not 2. If you have mice, set a dozen traps, all at once, all along the wall runs. Folks put out 2 traps for a family of mice and wonder that they make no headway. Mice breed faster than 2 traps can keep up. A dozen traps for a few nights clears the house far faster and more surely than 2 traps working for a month. Set many, set them right, and you will have the inside cleared in a week. And then, only then, once you are catching nothing new, do you go back and seal that last door and shut the house for good. Now I come to the part where I earn your trust, because I am going to tell you the plain truth about the things you have seen sold and sworn by. And some of it will save you real money you were about to spend for nothing. Let us start with the sound machines. The little boxes you plug into the wall that promise to drive off every mouse with a sound too high for you to hear. I will be as plain as I can be. They do not work. And this is not just my opinion. The government's own trade commission, the folks whose job is to catch false claims, warned these makers years ago that they could not prove their boxes do a thing and made them stop the worst of their promises. The plain science is simple. Even if the sound bothers a mouse for a day, the creature gets used to it inside of a few days and pays it no mind at all. And that high sound does not go through walls or around furniture. It bounces off and dies in the first solid thing it meets. So the mouse in your wall never hears it in the first place. Save your $20. The box is a comfort to the buyer and nothing at all to the mouse. Now the peppermint oil, for this one is gentler news, but honest still. You have heard it 100 times. Soak a cotton ball in peppermint oil and the mice will flee. Here is the honest truth of it. A strong, fresh smell of peppermint may put a mouse off a small spot for a day or two, and I will not tell you it does nothing at all. But the oil dries up and loses its smell in a few days, and the mouse, if there is food and shelter to be had, learns to walk right past it. It is a scent, not a wall. It will never empty a house of mice, and it will never keep a determined one out. And if you rely on it instead of shutting the doors, you have only given the mice more time to settle in and breed. A pleasant thing to freshen a drawer, not a mouse cure. And the mothballs, which I have seen folks scatter in an attic hoping to drive mice off. Leave them be. Mothballs were never made for mice at all. They are for keeping moths out of stored wool, and the strong poison in them is a danger to breathe in your own home, and does next to nothing to a mouse. Foolishness, and unhealthy foolishness at that. Here is the whole honest measure of it, and you can hold to this. There is no smell, no sound, no gadget that keeps mice out of a house. The only things that have ever truly worked are the plain ones I gave you first. Shut the doors so they cannot get in. Take away the food so they have no reason to try. Trap the ones already inside. Everything else sold to you is somebody making money off a person who wanted an easier answer than the true one. The true one is not hard. It is just work instead of a purchase, and it is the only thing that actually keeps your home your own. The last method is not a task, but a way of seeing, and it is the one that ties all the rest together and makes it last. It is this. A mouse-proof house is not a thing you achieve one time and forget. It is a habit of keeping, a way of living in a house. And once it becomes your habit, it costs you no thought at all. The old farmhouse stayed clear of mice not because someone did a great battle once, but because the family kept it in a certain plain way without ever thinking of mice at all. The dry goods lived in tins because that is simply where dry goods lived. The crumbs were swept of an evening because that is how an evening ended. The gap that opened where the pipe went through got noticed and packed the same week, because a man who keeps his own place sees these things. The house was tight and clean and kept, and a tight, clean-kept house has no room in it for mice, and so it had none. That is the real secret under all the others. Not a product, not a poison, not a trick. A house that is watched over and kept up does not get mice, because every door a mouse might use gets shut in the ordinary course of a man minding his home, and every scrap it might eat gets put away in the ordinary course of a family living clean. You do the 6 things once, right, this fall, and then you simply keep your house, the way the old folk kept theirs, and it keeps the mice out for you, year on year, without your ever fighting them again. That is what I mean when I say, fix the house, not the mouse. Fix the house, and then keep it, and you are free of the whole weary business for good. So here is the one small thing I would ask you to do, and I will keep it small. For a small thing begun tonight is worth more than a great plan for Saturday that never comes. This evening, before you go up to bed, take a flashlight and go look at just one place. Under your kitchen sink, at the back, where the pipes go down into the wall. Get down and shine the light in and look for the gap around those pipes. I would wager a good many of you will find a hole there big enough to put a pencil through, standing open to the outside, and you never knew it was there. Just find it, tonight. Do not even fix it yet. Just see it. See it the way a mouse sees it, and you will understand in your bones everything I have told you today, and the fixing will follow easy. Now I would like to hear from you, as I always do, for there is more good sense among you folks watching than in any book I own. Tell me down in the comments, what did the old people in your family do to keep the mice out, back before there was a spray or a box to buy for it? Was it a certain cat that ruled the barn? A way your grandmother kept her flour? Something you have not thought of in years until just now. Set it down below, for I read every one, and I have learned some of my best tricks from a thing one of you remembered. And if you would like to sit with me again next week for another of the plain old ways of keeping a home, then subscribe, and you will not miss it. It is good company at this hour, and there is a deal more of this old knowing left to share. Until then, go and find your one open door, keep your good food in tins, and remember that you need not fight the mouse every year. You need only fix the house one time and keep it. Do that, and your home stays your own, straight through the coldest winter there is. God keep you, friend. We will talk again.